What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be just explaining my thoughts on Pokemon Duel, on Brawl Stars, why the focus of my channel has really changed over to Brawl Stars recently, and just potential in general as far as mobile games are concerned. I've got a huge list I've written up here that I'm going to just go over one by one, and this is going to be more of a laid-back video. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of edits, probably just normal jump cuts and everything, and just talk to you guys about my thoughts on the games and just generally why I've made the decisions I have, because I have my reasons. I haven't been enjoying Pokemon Duel, but there are other reasons for sure, and I think that the change is overall going to benefit the channel in the long run. But right now, I know a lot of you guys are upset because all you're seeing is that I'm not playing Pokemon Duel, and I'm actively putting it down in the videos where I mention it. So let's just jump right in, and I can hopefully explain some of this to you guys. So first off, let's start off with Pokemon Duel, and just so you guys know, I'm going to be looking off to the side here because that's where my list is. So I just have a little bit of evidence here that Pokemon Duel is seen as sort of a side piece that's only used to promote the main games, a lot like Pokemon Go is. And I know some of you guys are probably going to be disagreeing strongly with me on the Pokemon Go point there, but I think that that's specifically what they mentioned when they were talking about Pokemon Go, that it's supposed to work as something that cannot possibly cannibalize the sales and the competitive scene of the main games. So they're never going to make like a good combat system. It's always going to be the tap-based combat system and stuff. You know, there's a lot that people can still get out of the game. It can still be a fantastic, fun game with a lot to it. And I'm sure eventually it's going to be a full-feature, full-fledged game that's just going to be a lot of fun to play alongside all the normal Pokemon games. But it's definitely a side piece to the main games and will never be in competition, I guess, with the main games. It's not going to be competitive with the main games. You know what I'm saying? So, moving on, we're just going to talk about all that real quick. So, first and foremost, there's a huge potential with Pokemon Duel. A huge potential. Unlike most Pokemon games, even I would say to the point where it could possibly cannibalize players from the normal Pokemon eSports and the mainline games, if it was actually promoted as an esport, if they had tournaments, if they actually just made it so it was more than just a self-fulfilling thing. You know, like, if you do really, really well in the games, then you don't get any monetary benefit from it. You're not going to be picked up by a team of any kind. It's literally going to give you booster tickets to throw back into the game to get more figures, and that is it, okay? If they actually took advantage of the potential that this game had for a competitive atmosphere as far as esports, like mobile gaming esports are concerned, a lot like Clash Royale, again, is something that I'm probably going to come back to in this video, then there'd be a lot of potential there. I think it could be huge. I think that it would continue to just rise and rise and rise because it is a fun competitive game once you get down to it. And I know a lot of people make the point that it can't be that way because of the RNG in it, and inherently an RNG-based game that's using spinners to determine an outcome will never be able to be competitive. But I would argue that Hearthstone is one of the biggest competitive mobile and generally like computer-based games, period, right? Esports wise, it's one of the biggest games, and that may be because it's fronted by a Blizzard, which is, you know, one of the biggest developers in gaming. But still, I mean, you cannot deny that it's mainly RNG based, that there's a lot of risk management in it, and that a lot of the cards are definitely going to screw you over sometimes, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, RNG is a main factor in a lot of the cards in that game, so it's probably not a good point to make that RNG would make a game irrelevant to an esports and competitive scene. Risk management has shown to be somewhat of a relevant structure as far as esports are concerned, especially when they're sort of lighthearted. Everyone can just jump into it, which is exactly how Pokemon Duel is. You know, when you jump into Pokemon Duel immediately, you're not thinking about hurdle jump. You're thinking about getting your figure to the other side of the field, other side of the board. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden a hurdle jump's going to pop out and you're going to lose to a hurdle jump, or Shuppet's going to walk straight to your goal and you're not going to know what's happening. Ghastly's going to sit right on your goal when it should have been surround killed. You're going to be like, what the heck? He should have been surround killed. And then suddenly you realize that's an ability that made it so he wasn't surround killed. I mean, there's a lot to it. It has a lot of potential for those oh my god moments, you know? And I think a lot of you guys remember that from my earlier videos when I first started playing. And I'd have a lot of those moments where I had no idea something was going to go down, because you're learning something new every single time you play a match. It's a very exciting thing, and you get that same type of feel when you're playing Hearthstone. You know, when you see a random card interaction that you never thought, like, oh, these cards would go together, and then all of a sudden they do, and the RNG all comes together and everything works out. Maybe you lose the game or you win the game because of it, but you know, it's really interesting, it's really fun, and it definitely can be a competitive atmosphere. So the argument for a Pokemon Duel esports scene is definitely there, and the argument against it just falls apart when you start to talk about it. So I'm not sure, other than them thinking that they're going to cannibalize their main series esports scene, I'm not sure what the argument is, and I'm not sure why they haven't just grabbed that opportunity by the horns. You know, it definitely is there. So, you know, I guess your guess is as good as mine, but that's one of my main issues with the game as it is, because there's so much potential there and they are just ignoring it completely. Next up, I think we should talk about figure rotations a little bit, and mainly what I'm talking about there is that for every single new booster, right, for every single new set of figures that comes out, it's not actually all new figures. Some of them are old figures, they just get buffed, and then they're not going to be OP. They're not going to be overpowered. They never are. I think there might be a couple examples that you guys can probably pull up, like Mew, where they've been repurposed to be a lot more effective, and generally they're accepted to be, I guess, future-proofed almost, you know? Like, Mew is essentially future-proofed, except I know that there are a couple new figures, or maybe just one new figure, that sort of counters Mew, but that's definitely not an argument against it. Mew is essentially future-proofed and was one of the best buffs that the game has ever seen. That said, it usually doesn't happen like that. It's usually just a minor buff that makes it so they're like more usable, right? The figure might be more usable, but it's definitely not the best figure in the new booster. And the best figure in the new booster is gonna be whatever the new figure is, right? So if the new biggest best figure, like for example, before I stopped playing, Tapu Koko was just coming out, right? And people were talking about that. That is a ridiculous effect. It's definitely not overpowered, or at least as far as I know, it's not overpowered. However, it's the most overpowered thing that was on that banner. While I would not make an argument against this, that's just the nature of a gacha game. It's important to note that this is the typical nature of a gacha game. You know, you bring back the old and you sort of make it a little bit more relevant, just like it was, you know, back when it came out, but you don't make it too relevant because you want people to still spend their money getting whatever the new thing is. This is standard gacha game practice. This is how they all work. They all have different price structures, so you can't say it's standard in that sense, but you can say that the general overarching way that they treat game, I guess, introduction, right? Like introducing all of the new, whatever they are, cards, figures, pieces, whatever you want to call them, you know, in any single gacha game is going to be a lot like that. They're going to have the new biggest best thing that comes out that no one has the opportunity to get unless they're dropping a bunch of money on it, and they're going to make the old things a little bit more relevant most of the time. I mean, they have different ways of going about doing that, but it's pretty standard practice for gacha games. So you can definitely define this as a gacha game, and as such, you can make the assumption that the game, if it's not going for a lot of longevity, if it's not going to be going far off into the future, they're going to succumb to standard gacha practices a lot sooner than I guess other games would if they were going for more longevity and less just getting all the money they can right now. So this really brings me to my next point, because we've defined it as a standard gacha game here. Okay, a standard gacha game that's going for longevity would introduce new features relatively often, you know. If the core gameplay is really, really good, maybe they focus on adding more in the scope of the core gameplay, but overall you expect new features to be introduced to the game, whether we're talking about Pokemon Duel and that would be new boards or something like that, something to that effect, maybe a sudden death mode or a free-for-all mode of some kind that introduces more than 2 players playing against each other, something like that. You'd expect new features of some kind to be introduced to the game, because even if you're introducing new things into the overall scope of the gameplay, very, very often, if the scope of the gameplay never goes outside of the original gameplay, then you're going to end up having a lot of people just getting bored of the game over time. And I think that a perfect example to compare this to would be Brawl Stars, because they're adding in new game modes. You know, we just got Brawl Ball, which is like a soccer game mode, and that sort of gameplay you can only get in Brawl Ball. It's not something that you can experience in any other part of the game. You can't have that in Showdown. You can't do that in Smash and Grab or Bounty or Heist. So it's a totally new game mode. You totally play the game differently, and you have to think differently and everything. And even though the core, I guess, gameplay of the game is somewhat simple, learning how to play all of the different game modes and doing as well as you can with every brawler is going to be very difficult, especially when you consider synergies. So if you actually consider that sort of thinking in the scope of Pokemon Duel, it hasn't had an update like that ever. We haven't had a new game board. We haven't had a sudden death mode or a free-for-all mode or anything like that. There's been nothing that changes the way that you think about the game overall. The overall scope of the game is in this box, and it's never actually deviated from that. So, you know, the deck building restrictions and everything, that's great, but that's not that big of a difference. You know, like, you're going to play the game within the same scope, within the same thinking, just with different figures. So that's going to get boring after a while for a lot of people, and is a reason why this is never going to be that big of a game. You know, you can argue all you want that they've had a lot of downloads and stuff, but the player retention is, it's got to be like 1%, something like that. Maybe running up on 2%, because they've got, what, 26, 27 million downloads at this point, and the active player base is like roughly 200,000. So they're sitting at like a 1 to 2% player base of their overall downloads, and that's no argument for them doing poorly or anything, because if they continue to engage this player base, they'll be successful forever. But that's not where they're going. That's not the road they're going down. And I see people every day on the subreddit and other outlets, avenues for discussion, saying that they're quitting the game, they're putting it down for a while, they're hoping it gets better, they're hoping the meta gets better, etc., etc. So I feel like they're not going in the right direction right now as far as just the structure of the game is concerned, and they don't have it set up to continue to be successful, to have the longevity that you'd expect from a competitive game like this. So that's one of my big issues, is that we're just not seeing anything new. We aren't. You can say all you want that the team battles or whatever, like, that's new, but it's really not. It's just playing ranked with like additional statistics like tacked onto it. So I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear your guys' arguments for or against updates in that vein in the comments, because I'm just at a loss. I have no idea why they wouldn't capitalize on the momentum they had with this game. There was a lot, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, maybe a little bit longer than that actually. I don't know. At least 3 or 4 months ago, right? There was a lot of momentum with this game. And trust me, as a content creator, that was the biggest content creator making videos regularly on it after, I think, Sacred and Nexus quit. I'm pretty sure I was the biggest creator making videos regularly on it. So I saw a lot from that. You know, I saw a lot of the community engagement. I saw a lot of people jumping in on it and saying it's a lot of fun and that has a lot of potential and everything. And it was really encouraging. And then all of a sudden, everyone got sour about it. You know, the community got sour, and I don't know. I guess that leads us to where we are right now. And that leads me right into my next point. There is absolutely no community interaction whatsoever from the developers. You can argue, I suppose, that their interaction with us is telling us in the news what the updates are when they're happening, and I guess what the balance changes and everything are, the new features or whatever they might be adding. I don't think I'd agree with that, because there's no active dialogue. There's no back and forth here. You know, we're not actively inputting any information into the game that we know is being taken into account when they're making these new updates and when they're deciding what they're going to do. And I don't think that it's too entitled to say that the community should have some interaction and hold the developers to some degree as far as just what they should be doing and what they should prioritize in the future. You know, if we all feel that Deoxys is a cancer to the game and it's actively just killing it, then maybe the developers should listen to us about it. And if everyone that's loud about it is thinking that, but then the silent majority isn't thinking that, then obviously they wouldn't make those changes. But there's no even avenue to discuss this where they might actually see it. They don't actively browse the subreddit as far as I know. I haven't seen anyone, and I'm pretty active on there. I lurk a lot. But I've never seen them on there. I've never seen them on Twitter. I've never seen them actually represented in English ever. Period. End of story, right? They have a Japanese Twitter account, and that's pretty much it. So that's one of my big issues as well. Their lack of interaction with the community. I've made 156 videos on Pokemon Duel. 156. Some of them I've put a lot of effort into and tried to make as high quality as I possibly could. Some of them is just me playing the game and having a good time, but I think that being the biggest creator that covers the game in the entire community, putting a lot of effort into the game, I don't think that entitles me to their attention, but I feel like as a developer for a mobile game that's competitive, that I should be someone that they look to give the sneak peeks, you know, someone that should have like all the figures in advance to make a video discussing, because then at worst I could discuss them and recommend if you guys should actually go after them or not beforehand after analyzing them, because like as it is, you know, we see them when they come out and I have to wait a day, and then by then everyone's already thrown out their videos and stuff on it, and you know, it just wasn't a great system, I guess, overall, because I didn't have any time to make videos on this stuff when they came out, which was usually really early in the morning. So I'd have to wait until literally the next day to make a video on it, and by then it's old information. So I'm not entirely sure why they don't interact with any of us. I suspect it's something to do with the overall Pokemon Company International maybe bringing down the hammer on all of their mobile game developers, because as you guys might know, Pokemon Go has a very similar, or had, I guess I should say, a very similar way of interacting with the community, in that they never really interacted at all. Now it's a little bit different. They have people they actually sponsor to play the game, YouTubers that are making content on the game actively, and that's awesome. That's awesome, you know, but I'd imagine that for the entire time that they were totally silent with all the content creators and all the people that just promoted their game and everything, that it probably went through the developers' heads quite a few times that, you know, hey, we should be acknowledging these people because they're making it so people stick with our game. And I don't know, that's just a theory. That's totally my theory, but I do feel like the Pokemon Company International probably actively squashes a lot of the community engagement that they might probably want if they want their apps to last in the long run. You know, obviously it has a lot of appeal as a Pokemon game overall, but I wouldn't say that going in the long term, I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years from now, that Pokemon Duel is going to be around, that Pokemon Shuffle is going to have a huge community behind it, that well, no, I guess Pokemon Go is probably still going to be big. Let's be real. It's like it's something off on its own, though. That's definitely exclusive to Pokemon Go. Now we got 2 more things to discuss about Pokemon Duel real quick. Sorry about the length of this video, but it's just going to be a big long video of me discussing everything about the channel right now. So take this as an update video, because I don't know what else you could call it. I guess me just tearing apart Pokemon Duel, but whatever. So 2 more things to talk about. First and foremost, we got the ridiculous price structure that is just ever so slightly getting lowered through these sales. And then the frequency of sales is also another thing. And then celebrations is just the next thing to talk about after that, because it's the reason why this is all happening. And a big sign that gacha games are, you know, going down, basically. I mean, let's be honest here. So the pricing structure originally was pretty ridiculous. $80 for the amount of gems that they gave for $80. I mean, that's a little bit ridiculous. So doing just a few normal booster openings on the newest banner would always be very, very expensive, unless there was a sale, and in that case, it would still be very, very expensive and most likely not yield you anything you really wanted. The way that they got around this was giving out materials and then single booster tickets, because this allowed you to sort of build up just this cache of materials that you would use to get something new, but that maybe you wanted, that you've been saving up for, especially if you're a free-to-play player. However, they've been slowly, just incrementally making this a little bit cheaper, and I guess this is probably because the sales have went down over time. You know, if you look at all the charts and everything for the Japanese app usage and Japanese app downloads, the statistics are all out there. They've been on the subreddit a bunch of times. They get deleted pretty often, actually. Very strange by the subreddit mods, but we're not going to get into all of that. They're a strange bunch. They're a strange bunch. That's all we're going to say about that. But anyways, these statistics are all out there and they're consistently going down. You know, it's like every single time there's a sale, there's like this little peak and then it goes right below where it was. It just goes straight down. So I feel like over time they're seeing the player base just go down and down and down. So they're trying to appeal to more people that might become whales in the future, because obviously they're kept afloat by the whales. There are not normal people spending 10 or 20 bucks at a time on this app, and if they are, they're not getting very much out of it. I can guarantee it, because there's not enough given from those purchases to warrant being purchased at all, in my opinion. Now, obviously, they could take, again, like the Clash Royale route, or even the Brawl Stars route, and make it so once you get to a certain rank, maybe you get this special package, you know? And maybe you get a bunch of booster tickets from it. Maybe you get a bunch of gems and a bunch of booster tickets, and maybe a special figure. They could do this with shinies. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to implement shinies soon or not. But anyways, I believe that's one of the major updates coming soon. They could do that sort of thing where these little packages pop up every time you hit a certain goal, like a certain new league in the game, right? So there's a lot of potential for that. They have not introduced yet that, though. They haven't made it tied to gameplay. They've just made it so you can spend 80 bucks and now you get up to around 3,000 gems for 80 bucks. And it used to be a third of that. So, or around a third of that, right? I believe around a third of that, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe it was about 1,000 gems for 80 bucks originally, without sales, and that's kind of ridiculous, let's be real. So then that moves into my final point on why the game is definitely not in a good place right now, and it's kind of just seen as a side piece to promote Pokemon. Celebrations. And you might be thinking, well, celebrations are great. We get all the sales. We can buy 876 gems for $7.99. Why would we be angry about that? That's awesome. Well, the frequency of these sales is actually a bad thing, believe it or not, for the overarching quality of the game and the, I guess, overarching health of the game. More the health than anything else. The quality of the game isn't going to be suffering too much in that aspect, but it is going to be the health of the game in the long run that is hurt by this, because people aren't going to want to whale anymore. If there's sales all the time, then the whales are going to be pretty upset when they spend their 80 bucks on 2k gems or 3k gems or whatever, when they can spend 8 bucks on almost 900 gems. You know, that comes out to be much, much cheaper than the top package at its best price. So the whales will get upset about that. The average player will be okay with buying that, but they're not going to be able to keep that up and keep up the feeling of, I guess, good things happening in the game. Because what happens with gacha games is, over time, they tend to have these celebrations more and more often, because players tend to not play the games in the in-between periods after a certain point between these celebrations. So this is what you're seeing now with all of these different celebrations. I think they had the 25 million celebration, they had one after that, and then I think they had a 26 million or 27 million download celebration. So you're starting to see that now. That's kind of a thing that regularly happens with gacha games towards the end of their lifespan. And yeah, I don't want to sing the song of death for them right now, but like that's pretty bad evidence against them right now, and I think is possibly the worst thing that's happening in the game right now, other than, you know, the lack of new content being introduced, other than new figures, which, again, I'm sure a lot of you guys feel very, very differently than me about that. You feel that the new figures are content enough, but I just don't think, for how bare bones the game is, that that's enough content to be added, especially if you're not going to have like major updates on regular intervals. You know, if they wanted to do new figures every 2 to 3 weeks or whatever, or even every month, maybe buff figures and have some like sextuple pack banner or something like that with all the new buffed figure, or the old buffed figures, maybe every other update, which would be like every 2 weeks, you know. Maybe that works out if they have a major update every 3 months. You know, if they add a bunch of new things every 3 months or so. maybe we feel okay about that, but I definitely don't feel okay about it as it is right now. So next, guys, we're going to just really quickly run through this list of stuff that Pokemon Duel could do to fix my opinion of them and what would definitely drag me back to the game. So first and foremost, we have English social media presence. I've already talked about that. You guys know why I want it. Next up, we've got competitive league coverage, treating it like a mobile esport like it should be. And I'm not just talking about the competitive league coverage like what they do with their leaderboards and all of that, and then finishing in like the top places and everything, or their replay mode or anything. I'm talking about like production, I'm talking about commentating, I'm talking about videos and live streams and tournaments, making it so the best players have some incentive other than just a self-fulfilling thing, again, to go ahead and keep playing at the highest level, you know? And I think that that's really important because they're competing with a lot of other games in this space that do that much better than they do. So yeah, that's pretty much that as far as competitive league coverage and everything is concerned. Moving on, we've got more major updates. Obviously, we just talked about that. New maps and a 4-player free-for-all mode. Either one. I would love new boards. I would love a free-for-all mode with 4 players. Either one would just be amazing. I would prefer a free-for-all mode. I want that so bad you guys don't even know. It's actually to the point where when I do eventually someday get this Pokemon Duel IRL thing figured out, by the way, literally because of the camera, okay, because I need more cameras that are at this quality, is the reason why it hasn't happened yet. But I've been contemplating how to make a 4-player board just to illustrate this, because I think it would be fantastic for the game to have free-for-alls and even have like cooperative gameplay where you're playing 2v2 or something like that. I think that'd be amazing. And I don't know why they haven't taken advantage of it, because it's clear by the demand in the main series games that this is something big for them, that free-for-alls are a big deal to a lot of the players in main series games, young or old. You know, a lot of the players enjoy that as just a really fun, casual thing to play with friends and all that. Pokemon fans all over enjoy that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure why they wouldn't take advantage of that. So that's pretty much all my thoughts on Pokemon Duel. So next up, guys, we're going to be discussing why Brawl Stars is my focus right now. A lot of you guys seem to think that there's no reason I should be covering it, that Pokemon Duel will get me more views, that my channel is dying without Pokemon Duel. And I will admit that the views did go down. You know, the views went down. But I wasn't enjoying Pokemon Duel at all, as it was. I was really getting pretty sour to making videos, to the point that I just didn't really enjoy recording at all, and I didn't enjoy editing, which is, you know, that's a red flag because editing is my favorite thing ever. So yeah, basically I just switched over to Brawl Stars. I guess there are a bunch of reasons. We're just gonna go over them all right now. So first and foremost, Supercell, they rock. Let's be honest, they're awesome. They've proven themselves numerous times over with numerous games, and they're just really solid developers overall. They put a lot of heart and soul into their games, and it's clear that they're in it for the long haul. You know, that's one of their main things that they talk about when they're talking about hiring new people, when they're talking about the scope for their company and their mantra. Like, it's like they're looking towards the long term, which is something that most mobile game developers do not do, and is a reason why they're so freaking successful. Like, they're always at the top of the App Store with most of their games. I mean, let's be honest, they're really good developers, so putting a lot of stock in them to do well with Brawl Stars is definitely not a bad idea. Moving forward, we got fantastic gameplay. The game is fun. Okay? That's what you look for with a game that you're going to be covering like day in and day out, making tons of high quality videos, highest quality you can on it. I mean, you're looking for it to be really fun, to where you can pick it up, you can play it, you can enjoy it every single day, whether you're recording or not. And I can't say the same for Pokemon Duel. I can't do it. You know, I have not touched the game. I have only opened the app to get a couple of the daily login bonuses, and even then I haven't been like that big on it, you know. I haven't played a single game since I recorded my last video, and I am infinitely happier for it. You know, I've just gotten totally sour to the game, and Brawl Stars feels fantastic. It's a fun game to record. It's a fun game to play when you're not recording. I play it with my little brother. I play it with some friends. I mean, it's just a good time. So that's another main reason that I'm playing Brawl Stars now, is because it's fun and I don't have to fake any enthusiasm. I'm not good at that anyways, so it's not something I wanted to continue doing, or at least I didn't want to continue covering Pokemon Duel because I'd be faking enthusiasm if I had any enthusiasm, which You know, it's either going to be bad content or fake content, and I don't want to do either of those things. So that's one of the reasons that I've moved on to Brawl Stars here. And by the way, I know a lot of you guys are probably going to unsubscribe after this. That's totally fine. If your time on the channel has come to an end, that's totally cool. I do not hold anything against you for it, and I've had good discussions with people about it in the past. I may or may not return to Pokemon Duel. I can't say that for sure right now. The production schedule and the update schedule for Brawl Stars right now is not really set in stone. We don't know when the next updates are going to come out. It could be as late as like mid-November or late November before we see the next major update to the game. So things might get stale. I might head back to Pokemon Duel for a little bit. Just know that it will not be permanent unless they fix most or all of the issues that I've mentioned in this video. So probably not going to be returning to it permanently at any point, because let's just be honest, they're not going to fix any of these issues that I'm talking about. I'm literally just like the old chicken screaming to the cloud, you know? Like, I'm screaming at a cloud right now. They're not listening to anything that I say. So let's just go over a few more just good things about Brawl Stars, why it's my focus. So progression feels fantastic. You know, Pokemon Duel progression feels good too, I'll admit. But brawlers are not ever going to be directly power creeped in Brawl Stars. They have they have this unique identity, okay? They have this unique just personality to them, the way that they attack, the way their supers go off, the way they talk, the way they move. You know, everything's unique to them. They're unique characters, and they can be built on as time goes on, which is awesome. You know, that's a really, really cool thing. Pokemon Duel is very different. They are literally figurines that are directly power creeped as time goes on. You know, there are figures that have been made irrelevant and will never be relevant again because of things that come out in that game, and I feel like that's completely unacceptable. Again, that's a way that they'll buff them probably eventually. You know, some things are just lost, obviously, but they'll probably buff some of them eventually, but they'll never surpass the things that come out after them that are meant to power creep them. So that's kind of unfortunate, but you know, the cooperative gameplay is also pretty awesome. So it's nothing against Pokemon Duel. I just really enjoy the fact that I can play with my little brother. I can play with my friends. You know, I can play with random people that I meet from the band or from my videos. It's a lot of fun. You know, having that option is really, really cool. So I just enjoy that aspect of the game. That's just a reason why I'm putting a lot more stock in it, because there's a lot more cooperation in this game, and it feels a lot more like a cooperative community, I guess, than Pokemon Duel does. Because Pokemon Duel, you're always trying to get a leg up on your competitor. You know, there's no reason other than building the community to share things with anyone else, right? Now, obviously, you can sort of steal things from other players if you go up against it, but that's beside the point. I'm just trying to say that I enjoy cooperative gameplay. That's just a big plus for me, right? So moving on, the price structure is pretty reasonable in my opinion for a mobile game. It's still expensive. It's still expensive. $100 for 1,850 gems. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not that ridiculous either. You can get a lot with $100 in this game, whereas in Pokemon Duel you can get literally nothing for it. At least in Brawl Stars, if you get nothing for $100, then you're still going to be getting something, because you're going to get Elixir, which you can use to buff whatever brawlers you already have, and you'll get chips, which you can use to work towards getting something that you might want in the future. So you're always making progression in Brawl Stars, and it always feels like you're progressing towards something in Brawl Stars. Like, I have a 5th of a legendary on Brawl Stars right now. You know, I've worked up towards getting either a mythic or a legendary. I could get an epic that I don't have right now. You know, I've worked up towards that, and it's either all or nothing with Pokemon Duel. You either get it or you don't. Obviously, I guess with materials, you could make a similar argument. You're going to be working towards getting materials to get a specific figure that you might want, but it's going to be outdated a long time before any brawlers will ever be outdated in Brawl Stars. And I mean, that's possibly because the game is in a very fledgling state right now, and they're constantly balance changing and stuff, but it's also because they're not going to power creep directly their own brawlers, because that's just not the way that they're going about things. I mean, that's just not the way they're gonna balance the game or anything. Create new brawlers that are like carbon copies of the old ones, but making them better. They're not going to do that. So that's a pretty pretty big positive for Brawl Stars in my opinion. Now we got 2 more points, and these are the biggest points for Brawl Stars in my opinion. The biggest points, hands down, no contest in my opinion, to make content on this game right now, get it out there, get it ready to go, and wait for the inevitable just crazy mad rush when global release and Android release does happen. So the community support that Supercell has is just unreal above pretty much every other developer I can think of. I actually can't think of a developer that treats their content creators better than Supercell does. And again, I'm not trying to just praise them and everything. I'm hoping eventually I can work with them, but that's beside the point. Like, my first high quality video I made was a guide on Piper. The first one. You know, I've been making gameplay videos and update discussions and everything, but I really put a lot of effort into making a structured sort of guide video for one of the newer brawlers, an epic brawler called Piper. She's sort of like a sniper. It's really cool. She plays really fun, and people were asking me how to play her. So I sort of borrowed some inspiration from some of my favorite Clash Royale content creators and tried making something similar in Brawl Stars. And the first one, guys, the first guide that I made, the first one was retweeted first and foremost. I posted it on Twitter, and it got retweeted by the official Brawl Stars Twitter account, which was unbelievable. Like, I woke up to that, and I had, like, I want to say a couple hundred notifications, and it was the most unbelievable thing. I was on cloud 9, right? Like, no company, no developer has ever recognized my videos before, so that was just an absolutely bizarre feeling. But it was my first one. I hadn't even, like, gotten the whole format together properly how I wanted it, which, I'm getting there now, but I'm still not there yet. But, like, I think that I made a pretty mediocre first effort, even though it took me a long time to get the format right. And they retweeted it. Later on in the week, they posted it again in their own words, like, suggesting people check it out if they want any tips on Piper or anything like that. It was a really, really freaking cool thing, guys, I have to say. And if you look at any other Supercell creators, any other creators that make Supercell video or Supercell game-based videos, people that generally work hard at making content for their games get recognized for it, and that is really cool. That is really, really cool, and something I will never see in Pokemon Duel, most likely. I cannot see it happening. You know, if they don't even make an English Twitter account or an English social media account of any kind, then they're not going to be interacting with the English community on YouTube. There's no way. Finally, the final point here, and I know this was a very long video. I'm sitting looking at the timeline right now. It's over 40 minutes, so I can't imagine how long it's going to be when I make the jump cuts and everything, because I went off rambling a couple times. I'm going to cut a few of those out. But yeah, sorry about the length here. So finally, Brawl Stars has a lot of esports potential, and it's built to be competitive from the ground up. You know, we've got competitive bands in the game. So you band together, you try to get all your trophies together, you get players that are good, and you win games, you get to the top of the leaderboards, and they are set up to have tournaments. Like, the way that they introduced the whole game to the world was through a YouTuber tournament. They introduced it to everyone, not through a normal launch, through a trailer or anything like that, but having all of our favorite faces from all the Supercell games come together and just beat the crap out of each other in an arena trying to win a tournament. That is the coolest way, in my opinion, to introduce a game, and the best way to make sure that any competitive player or future possible competitive player knows that eventually they are going to be supported in some sort of competitive, like, community of some kind. You know, it's definitely going to be there. They said that in the future, now this might not be the near future, but it definitely will be in the future, they're going to be introducing a friendly game mode, which would mean that custom tournaments are a go. You know, we're good to go on those. I mean, this is really big, guys, and it is ready to go as far as competitive is concerned. I'm sure it's going to be there when it goes global and on Android, so keep an eye out for that. I'm definitely going to be making videos on it in the future for sure, talking about formats and everything they could use and everything like that. But I'm really, really, really excited for the competitive in Brawl Stars. I think it's going to be a big deal. Synergy is a huge deal in that game, and having teams at, like, a high level is going to be so entertaining. It's going to be like, I want to liken it to, like, League of Legends, but mobile and a little bit simpler, you know? Like, obviously, League of Legends is going to be so much more complicated to do well and do well with a team, but Brawl Stars is going to be up there as far as team-based gameplay that's very fast-paced is concerned. Even though, again, it's more like a bullet hell game than anything else. The cooperative gameplay is definitely there, and being on a team with multiple people that are just sort of cooperating, talking it out, you know, calling and everything, like, it's a lot of fun, trust me, and I'm excited for the esports potential the game has. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions after this video, you watched the whole thing, you got to the end here, and you just don't know something about something I said, or if I didn't cover something here, please let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer it. I'll check the comments section a bunch of times because this is a pretty important video for me, and it's probably one of the longest discussion videos I put out. But I feel like I owe you guys sort of an explanation as to why everything just suddenly just changed without any prior notice on the channel. It's mainly because I just don't like the way Pokemon Duel is going. I don't like the way the community is going. I don't like the way that the developers are going with Pokemon Duel. That's basically what it comes down to at its core, you know? I really don't see a redeeming quality other than you guys for Pokemon Duel, and unfortunately, that's not going to get me where I want to be. That's not going to get me to the goals that I have with content creation as an overarching thing, you know? It's just not going to get me there. So I have to go where I think is, I guess, I don't want to say the next big thing because I would have stuck with Pokemon Duel if it kept getting better, but it just kept getting worse. So I want to say that Brawl Stars is my personal next big thing, and it might be the actual next big thing as far as mobile games are concerned. So I don't know. I'm really excited for its future. I have a lot of confidence that it's going to be a big deal, and I'm going to keep making videos on it because it's a lot of fun. Again, we may return to Pokemon Duel. I do not want to rule that out yet, but it's not ever going to be permanent. So keep that in mind if you guys want to stick around. Otherwise, thank you guys all for the support. Thank you guys all for, I guess, everything that you've supported me on in the past. You know, again, 156 Pokemon Duel videos. When I started out that game, I didn't even know if I was going to continue to a second episode, let alone it be just the biggest thing that's ever happened to my channel, period. You know, so I have to thank you guys so much for all the support. I really quickly would like to run over to YouTube real fast. Tell you guys about a couple creators you might like to watch. If maybe you want to just see Pokemon Duel, you don't want to see anything else, or you want to see a lot more Pokemon Duel than I'm going to be offering, I say first and foremost, Choctopus. You know, he makes some really solid content. It's funny, it's good, he's a good player, and overall I just recommend his content. It's high quality and everything. Go check him out. Links will be down in the description. Screw it, I don't even care. We're just going to put him down there. Let's run over and we'll find a couple more real quick. I know there are quite a few that I want to talk about real fast. Alright, so we've got quite a few to talk about here. We've got Go Shiny Hunter, makes fantastic mobile gaming videos as a whole. Sometimes he deviates from Pokemon Duel. It's actually been a few days since he posted his last Duel video, but he posts really high quality videos, discusses a lot of different things with a lot of analysis, and he's a solid player as well. So overall, definitely recommend his content. We got Rico EXE here, and I'll go ahead and, again, we're going to link everyone down in the description below. He makes very regular content, I believe pretty much every day here, and, you know, overall, just a solid content creator, high-quality content and everything. Definitely can expect solid videos out of him. We've got Shuppet Speed, who actually knocked me out of my own tournament quite a while ago, so definitely recommend him. He's a high-tier player, you know, he's pretty good. He's pretty good, just saying, pretty good. But he makes very regular content. I think that he's been up to some stuff recently. He's had some stuff going on, so that's probably why it hasn't been as regular recently. I can't talk. But yeah, definitely subscribe to him. He'll be back soon, I'm sure. He makes high-quality videos. His overlay, man, I love all of his artwork. It's so freaking cool. His banner and stuff, just, oh, I'm looking at it right now. It's just awesome. We got RX Gaming, the legend himself. Fantastic player. Really freaking good at this game, guys. Definitely check out his content. he's very enthusiastic about it, if nothing else. Definitely very enthusiastic. It looks like he's actually doing a grind to 4K series, which is pretty hardcore. He's promoted Duel YouTubers in the community before. That's really awesome. You know, he's done some cool stuff. He's definitely done some cool stuff. He's made some solid content, and he's just getting better. So definitely recommend his content because, you know, if you're a Pokemon Duel fan, you've already watched him. Let's be real. But yeah, he puts a lot of time and effort into his content, so I have to recommend him. And then we're gonna go over to Pokefodder. Last but not least. Oh no, not last but not least. Not even last. Never mind. We got one more after that. So Pokefodder's made very informative, very analytical content, and he's had a very consistent style to it, very consistent quality to it. And overall, I mean, I really like his commentary. I really like his commentary. He has a great commentating, just I guess, style overall, and I like it. So definitely check him out. And then last but not least, the actual last but not least here, we've got Kahenkyo, who's been a long time part of the channel, I guess. Not really part of the channel directly, but, you know, he's been in, like, the Discord for a long time and everything, in the comment sections and all that. I know you guys know him. Go ahead and check out his content. It's very regular, actually. He makes very regular content. He live streams. He's got a lot going on. Solid thumbnails and all, you know. I mean, this is some really solid content. Go check him out. So again, all the links will be down in the description below if you guys want to go sub to them, because they deserve the attention. If you're just looking for Pokemon Duel content, and then some of them even if you're looking for other content. I know Chocto does a lot of other stuff with Dokkan. He does I don't know if he's going to continue posting a lot of videos on Pokken, but he definitely is posting some videos on that, so those are really entertaining. I really enjoy them. He does some other stuff too, so good deal on all of that. You know, obviously we got Go Shiny Hunter doing some other stuff as well. So go ahead and check them all out, guys. Give them a sub, because they definitely deserve some more attention than they get. I was hoping that they'd all just blossom up past me and I wouldn't have to worry about this when I did my commons only tournament, but I guess that didn't happen. But whatever, you know, what can you do really, right? But yeah, so go check them out. And yeah, guys, that's gonna be about it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it answered all your questions. Again, drop me a comment below if anything is left unanswered here. If you have any comments on anything that I've said here, disagree, agree, whatever you want to talk about. I don't feel good about the future of Pokemon Duel. I feel great about the future of Brawl Stars, and I feel really, really good about the direction my channel's heading in, even though right now I know that the numbers aren't there. That wasn't even why I got into YouTube initially, so I really could care less about that. Like, it's honestly totally inconsequential for me. The only thing that it's really affecting is I'm making less money, so I don't have enough to upgrade all my equipment as I'd like to, I guess. But, you know, whatever. I can sell stuff. I can work otherwise, you know. It's not a big deal if I don't make all the money that I need for equipment and in-app purchases and stuff through the YouTube channel. It really isn't. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's wow. I don't even know how to end this video, guys. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and until the next one, peace. I think that's pretty good.